everybody. Welcome back. Taking a look at Peking Opera Blues. This is the 4K release, and Iron Monkey, and this is a Blu-ray. Both these are imports. This came out a few months ago. I don't remember when this came out. A couple of years ago, maybe. Maybe wrong about that. Not entirely sure. I think it was a South Korean import, maybe. I don't know. So we'll start with Iron Monkey. So I'll put Peking over here. Well, you can see the green dot from the camera, but that's okay. This is one of my favorite movies. I love this movie. I've seen it many times, and I remember my disappointment, putting it mildly, when I saw this in theaters. So I was already familiar with the movie before Miramax put this out back in, I don't know, must have been early aughts or something. It was certainly after Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Miramax bought the distribution rights for this in North America, and I remember being incredibly excited initially because I was going to see one of my favorites in the theater, and then I didn't realize at the time how many changes they were going to make to the movie. So, like, on one hand, I was, still excited to see it on the big screen, but on the other, it wasn't really the version I was expecting to see. So it kind of had a bitter taste in my mouth leaving the theater, but also I still wanted to highly recommend it to people to go see. You still gotta see this movie. You gotta see this movie. But then also, not be annoying and be like, oh, but it's not that great compared to the original, and everything else goes along with it. So, anyways, this is a limited edition. It has a little number foil stamp here. This is number 592 out of 777, and looks like it is Nova. So I have a couple of Nova movies, this being one of them, and the other being Hero, which was also a numbered release. So here's the back of the box here. Looks like we have some writing on the inside of the box. And presumably this says Iron Monkey. Not sure. Yeah, there's some embossing here. So there's a little bit of texture. So this is a nice release. I don't remember it being, I think it was like $25 or something. I don't remember it being that much. I remember shipping being a fair amount, but I ended up getting the two movies, so it wasn't too bad, I guess. So here we have Donnie Yen. He plays Wong Kei-ying, who's Wang Fei-hung's father. And here we have the actual Iron Monkey, and honestly, I forget the actor's name who plays Iron Monkey. Sorry, big guy. There's the spine. And again, there's some Chinese here, which I cannot read. But it does have the Cantonese 5.1, Cantonese 1.0, Mandarin 2.0, and then does have an English track as well, which I haven't watched. That's a 5.1. And it does have English subtitles. And for the most part, the subtitles are good. There's no egregious grammar issues. I mean, I don't know how accurate the translation is necessarily, but sometimes you're watching a movie and there's actually actual grammar issues regardless of the translation. So all things considered, pretty good in that sense. I'm gonna open this up. And here's the inside. So we have the disc, and then we have Donnie Yen again. And it came with some art cards here. So there's the same image of Donnie Yen. Flip through these. There's the back of the card. There's some dishonorable monks getting what's coming to them. And I think that's it, yeah. I wasn't even expecting these, so that's kind of cool. I'm sure a little bit larger, but I think this is the second time I've looked at them since purchasing this movie, so it isn't that big of a deal. I'm going to put this back in here. But this movie, the first time I saw it, blew me away. I didn't remember even how I watched it. Probably that video port place I was talking about in some previous videos. They had a really extensive import collection of movies, and it may have been the first movie I saw. I'd seen plenty of Jet Li movies, like Once Upon a Time in China. That's actually Peking Opera Blues is a Suhark movie, so we'll get to that momentarily. But I don't think I'd seen Donnie Yen in anything before this movie, and he just absolutely blew me away, and he quickly became one of my favorite martial arts stars, action stars, and he's just really charismatic, and his physicality is he kind of always remind me like a combination of Jet Li. There was always this forcefulness. It was an aggressiveness that was kind of you wouldn't normally see with Jackie Chan, who has a real looseness to his fight scenes. And Donnie Yen kind of reminded me of a combination of both when I watched him perform. And this movie has action, drama, comedy. Not too unusual for some Hong Kong movies, because they end up mashing a lot of genres together, where people pay to see a movie, they want to see a little bit of everything. And but the fight scenes in this, the choreography, Yuen Wo-ping is the director and fight choreographer, stunt coordinator for this movie, and it's just awesome. Really creative fights. Some scenes are undercranked, so they're going a little bit faster, but I really like the energy to it, and it just surprisingly funny. I really wasn't expecting this movie to be as humorous as it is, but it's really great comedy as well. It kind of reminds me of a Stephen Chow movie in that sense. Maybe not as outlandish or slapstick, but definitely an undercurrent of comedy throughout most of the movie. Really happy to have this. You can get the standard edition, I think. Still, this one's sold out, but big deal, it doesn't have a foil stamp on the bottom. And I would recommend this over the Miramax one, which I think is out of print. So don't go out of your way to buy the Miramax one, because they updated the soundtrack. It's missing. Well, I guess if you're not familiar with Wong Fei-hung's theme, you wouldn't even notice. But the sound effects have been replaced with more Crouching Tiger type sound effects. There's some cuts to the movie. Any scenes that were undercranked, they updated, so they are at a slower pace. it was just, I didn't really understand the cuts to the movie. It was pretty frustrating to watch. So this is the version that you'd want to get. Naturally, I'd love to have a 4K version of it, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. So I'll put this over here, and then we have Peking Opera Blues. This was a first-time watch for me. I've seen quite a few Sue Hark movies, but I haven't seen this one. And supposedly this is like, the quintessential like Sue Hark movie. A lot of people say if you want to get into his movies, this is the one to start with, and I just never got around to it. So when it ended up getting a release through Shout, and then I heard the subtitles were kind of not great, and I knew Arrow would be handling it, and I was like, oh, maybe the subtitles are better for the Arrow release. So I waited, and from what I read, the subtitles are better. This actually has two tracks, two subtitle options. So one of them really is goes out of its way to point out like different like dialect, because I think the characters, I am not an expert on this at all, so just from what I read, various regions, you'll have different accents, for Cantonese and what have you. So these three leading ladies are from different parts of the country, so the subtitles I think go out of their way to emphasize that, along with some other things that would probably make it more difficult to follow if you're just like reading along, but if you're familiar with the movie, it does add maybe some insight you weren't aware of. So I didn't watch that with those subtitles for my first viewing, but for my second viewing, I want to check them out to see, what differences are noticeable to me, anyways. So, having already proven himself a master of kinetic action with Zoo Warriors from the Magic Mountain, legendary director Sue Hark would add lashings of comedy. There's a very brutal torture scene in this, with a person is being getting some lashings, so it's just an odd way to phrase this. Lashings of comedy with frenzy, expressionism to spectacular effect in the 1986 Peking Opera Blues. He also did a Shanghai Blues. I think that came out a couple years before this. Anyways, in Beijing, 1913, in a time of violent turmoil when local tyrants vie for supremacy, three women's lives converged in the local Peking Opera House. Together, they hatch a revolutionary plan to stop President Yuan Shikai from reinstating the monarchy and proclaiming himself emperor. With the help of a righteous freedom fighter and a disillusioned palace guard, the rebels must use all their wits and brawn to protect their democratic principles and save the emerging Chinese Republic. Showcasing all of Sue Hark's talent for visual spectacle and featuring captivating performances from Bridget Lin, Sally Ye, and Sherry Chung in the three leading roles, Peking Opera Blues is an explosive thrill ride presented here in stunning 4K restoration and packed with extras. This was very entertaining as well, similar to Iron Monkey, maybe not as broad with its comedy, but this has action, drama, romance. Again, a very surprisingly violent torture scene that happens like 2/3 the way through the movie or so, where I was just like, oh man, this person's like getting tortured, which, I mean, torture is supposed to be bad, but it just kind of threw me off a little bit, considering the tone is a little light for the most part, even with some of the violence that's taking place. And actually, Sue Hark, he produced Iron Monkey. So okay. And these they're kind of similar in the sense, like they'd be a good double feature, because Iron Monkey has basically like a Robin Hood. There's a corrupt official, exploiting the townsfolk. Taxes this, don't release the food, blah blah blah, and this is about corrupt officials as well, just with no Robin Hood type figure. They're probably a more rewarding experience if you're familiar with what was transpiring in China at the time. This is the early 1900s. My history there is a little shaky, to say the least. So that aspect of the movie, is more of a backdrop to me. But I don't think you need to be an expert in history to enjoy the movie in the sense. The performances are great. The action scenes are really fun and exciting. It's just a really entertaining movie. It does have a little bit of everything. I really liked the transfer too. I was surprised it looked as good as it did. So I watched Iron Monkey first, and then I watched this. I'm glad I did, just because Iron Monkey looked pretty good, but this was a really nice looking transfer too. So really glad I have this. Definitely plan on watching it again. And hopefully we get more Sue Hark movies on 4K. I'd love to get at least the first Once Upon a Time in China, because I really enjoyed those movies the first time I watched them. So anyways, thanks for watching.